Hello, amazing ladies. Let me just check quickly to make sure this is working. Say hello as you're hopping on. I'm just going to check here my page to make sure we are live. Looks like we are live. I'm excited to be here. I actually wasn't sure if I was going to do a video today. First, I have to start off by saying Bonne fête, Papa. Today is my late father's birthday, and I was really struggling if I should come on live today. I just had this calling to do this live today, and then I had these mixed emotions, and I was just remembering my dad, and he would say, Mireille, inquiète-toi pas, là, inquiète-toi pas de moi. So I decided I'm going to listen to my dad, and I'm going to hop on live today. So for those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Mireille Thériault. I go by Mireille Nicole in my coaching practice, and I work with women to up-level their love lives to the same standard they hold for their businesses or their career. So whether they're single, married, or divorced. So I wanted to hop on today and talk to you guys about a hot and juicy topic. I actually posted about this a little while ago. I want to talk about needing control versus being in control in love. And I'm going to make the connections also to how this shows up in our business, how it's reflected back and forth in both of these areas of our lives, and why that's so important. So again, I'll give it a couple minutes, see if anyone hops on. Yes, this is a mason jar, an old jar I have that I like for my water. I'm vegan, by the way, so I do not have kefir anymore in my diet. All right, so let's just dive in. If you're hopping on, have any questions, say hi in the comments. If you know anyone who would benefit from this topic, make sure to tag them so they can catch the replay or watch live along with us. So this may be you. Number one, maybe you're a master in dominating wealth, right? You have a 6 or 7 empires simply bowing to your knees. And maybe you started your business, right, for a bit more control over your time, the limitless income opportunities, and total influence over what you do, your mission, and following your purpose in life. Or maybe you're in a C-suite corner office career just smashing it. And again, you made the decision to control your financial future, right? By either climbing the corporate ladder, molding yourself into this rock star employee, right? But for some strange reason, the only uncontrollable in your life is the men. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that today. Let me know if this is you. If you have your own business, let me know in the comment. I'm really curious to see who's watching this today. So the goal for today is to really understand how to have control without needing it. All right, without being nasty, manipulative, whatever we sometimes feel we need to do, or some people might be doing, right? And it doesn't even have to be like that, right? Sometimes we need control and we're doing it for really good intentions. And I'm going to show you how that shows up in your life, how it showed up in my life also, and how that's also influencing to the dynamic in your relationship and your success in terms of having your happily ever after relationship. So just to clarify first, needing control is when it's over another person or an external circumstance, whereas being in control is where you're in control over oneself and your internal circumstances. So this is a very, very important distinction to keep in mind. So when I talk about, letting go of control or really looking at how control shows up in your life, I'm not saying stop controlling everything and just make it a free-for-all and whatever happens, happens, because that's not empowering either, right? The whole point here is to discover how you can use your own femme power, and I intentionally don't use feminine energy, to get the results that you desire in love and life without having to be so much in your masculine and having to control everything, right? So by being in control, that is when you effortlessly influence the dynamic of other people and what comes into your life from an external perspective. And you're not controlling in terms of changing the way anyone else is living their life. You are really controlling yourself, actually, which brings out the desired result in other people without any negative consequence on them. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a story. I'm going to share a personal story with you. Hopefully that's going to illustrate this and how it showed up in my love life, right? So hopefully this will help. So for those of you who don't know, I am divorced. Once divorced, now remarried to the man of my dreams. And I have to say, I love sharing the story because I did in fact manifest my dream man. However, the problem for me was that once I had him, I didn't know what to do with him, right? I didn't know how to keep him magnetized, keep the relationship going, you know, well and growing and fulfilling and whatnot. So when we got together, we both had children from, you know, other relationships. So we became a blended family. And one of the examples I'm going to share in terms of where the control was really coming up was that, so my now husband, dream man, this child goes to school in another, not another city, but in another town. So it's pretty far away. So when the custody was a certain way where he would have to drive her quite a distance to school every day, every second week, but every day. And that was putting a lot of pressure, right? So it was far, there was a lot of stuff to manage in the morning, and it was a long ride there, which made it a long ride back. And then he'd have to go pick her up and then come back again. So I stepped in and offered to help, right? I say offered, maybe I was pushing to help, but in my mind, if I could make it easier, like I saw the stresses of having on my partner, right? And I figured if I jumped in and if I offered to do stuff, then things would be okay, right? He wouldn't have to drive as often, I'd be helping out. And what ended up happening, instead of making his life easier, it was causing friction between the two of us, right? Because I had this expectation that I would drive for a certain number of days or a certain number of times, either in the morning or the evening, and then things would just explode, right? And I didn't understand it because in my mind, I thought helping and doing things would make him in a better mood. It would be easier to be in our circumstances. Everyone would be happy, when actually what it was doing, it was leading to frustration, confusion in terms of whose day it was, even though we tried to schedule things out, right? A bit of resentment, some arguing, some self-sacrifice too on my part, and it started not feeling good, okay? So when I became aware of what we were doing, what I was doing in terms of trying to exercise control here under the guise of being nice or caring or seeming selfless, I was actually trying to control the situation because I was concerned about how he was feeling, how he was dealing with the situations and the circumstances, right? I didn't see it that way. I wasn't connecting the dots. And what happened is when I started letting go of this need to help make him feel better and make the circumstances easier, that's when the argument stopped. I started feeling less emotionally reactive to the situation. There was less also of an undercurrent of frustration just in our whole relationship, or relationship as a whole, okay? Sometimes so many things build up in your relationship, so many resentments, you can't even pinpoint what is wrong, okay? And when this is the case, like that's what's happening, all these little things, I think I'm helping, but really I'm butting in a way, right? And these things add up into an undercurrent that can impact the whole vibe. And then when that happens, it's really important to start working on these little items that are contributing to that and peeling those layers back, okay? So you can get to the root cause and you can eliminate this undercurrent, okay? So how does this relate to how I was working on my business? Okay, well, I was doing these same kind of things in my business, right? Being glued to my phone 24/7, over-giving to clients and people coming into my world. I was always focused on strategizing, fixing, finding a solution, implementing to reach my goals, right? And this was being carried over into my relationship because it was giving me results in my business, right? I was seeing the outcome of that. So that's one of the traps that I see a lot of successful business women fall into. There are things that are working in the business and we try to just one for one take them and bring them back into a relationship where really there's a very special dynamic in love that we need to respect and understand. And what we do, we find out we're kind of doing the same things, but it's really the skills and the strategies that make all the difference in this instance. So here are 3 different ways that you might unknowingly be being controlling in love. And then I'm going to talk about how this is showing up for you also in your business. So number 1, It might be that you're wanting him to be a certain way, right? This is actually showing up as control. You want him to be a certain way for you to feel better, right? It's all about him being a certain way. And I see this a lot again in terms of working with women who are in business, entrepreneurs. I see a lot of them, and me included, right? We work on our personal growth, our personal development, the inner work, the healing and whatnot. And when we see our man not doing that, then we start feeling like we're growing without them, and we kind of want them to also be changing. We want them to also be growing and doing the same things, right? And when he's not, we can think, it's a problem. It becomes a problem in our relationship. But we need to understand, again, that the focus is on us. And wanting him to be a certain way, again, is a way to control the circumstances and the situations and the relationship that we're in. Number 2, we can find ourselves telling our partner what to do, maybe even complaining or nagging a little bit, right? And we can be justified, sure. There are some things, maybe it drives us nuts because we've asked a million times and the things still don't happen. But as soon as we start telling him what to do, which is just like, we command in our businesses, we can fall into the trap of doing this more and more and more and more, and it adds up. We fall into these patterns. And the thing is, it also doesn't feel good to us. So it doesn't feel good to the man. It doesn't work with the dynamic that you want in your relationship. And then everyone's not feeling good, right? And maybe some people will say, well, yeah, it feels good because I'm annoyed. So I'm going to tell him what to do. And then if he does it, it's going to make me happy. But again, that's a temporary happiness. That's like your dopamine fix, right? You think the chocolate bar is going to make you happy. It makes you happy for 10 minutes. And then you feel like crap. And the same thing in your relationship. And the third is trying to make him happy all the time. Again, this can seem as something really positive and beneficial and good, but when it happens at the expense of, or happens all the time, or for a specific reason, kind of like the example I was giving you, right? This is where it gets tricky and it falls again into the realm of control. It's not our jobs to make him happy all the time, right? Of course we want him to be happy. But when we start to get into the arena of trying to do specific things to make sure that we have that outcome, then that's where, again, we mess with the energies in the relationship. And again, this gets reflected in our business in terms of people pleasing our clients, right? Over giving to them. So again, you see where we have these same patterns showing up, right? But again, like I said, the problem for us entrepreneurs is a lot of times the control game can work. It gets us high cash months, but then you pay for it when it comes to love and relationships. So like I said earlier, here are a couple signs that that's happening in your business, right? Your business and relationship, and connecting the dots together. So number 1, you have clients standing in line to work with you. You have a full wait list. However, every single date you go on, the guy vanishes the moment you start liking him. Or number 2, your content for your business gets tons of compliments and you get validation from all the women in your world. But strangely enough, when it comes to your man, he gives all his attention to his video games or to his friends or his hobbies, or worse yet, other women, right? Or maybe you're jumping on the Reels bandwagon, right, for Instagram, and this has been taught to you as the way to really grow your audience. So you're just getting out there and getting out there, right? And it's the same thing in love. You think the more men you have to date, that's how you're going to find your dream man, right? And that's a lot of work, just like your reels are a lot of work probably, and all the things you're doing to grow your audience at work, it's a lot of work. So you think you have to put your business on hold, or you have to put your love life on hold to focus on your business first. And then you don't see that the man of your dreams is actually right in front of you, but you just can't see him because of all of the things you're doing. So at this point, I see a lot of women throwing in the towel, right, on finding their white knight and claiming being single is awesome. And sure, it can definitely be awesome. But even a lot of them deep down inside, I know, right? You desire that connection with someone, that deep connection, whether you're single now or you're in a relationship where you've lost that flame. Or both. In some cases, what can happen is you burn out both in love and in business. And if we want to avoid both of those scenarios, either or, Okay, because you don't need to be in control, in full control, or have that much control in either aspect of your life. And when you can relinquish some of that strategically in using some of the FemPower tools and channel in your inner mistress, then you'll see how it all works together for you to get the greatest benefits in your business and also the greatest benefits in your love life. So I'm going to fill you in on a dirty little secret, okay, one that we don't talk about enough, or it's unheard of in the industry, and that's the skills, the strategies, and the mindset, at least what you think are the skills, strategies, and mindset that are meant to attract your soulmate clients are actually poison to your soulmate partners. And then as a result, you see the cash flowing in, you see those bank account notifications, but you see the men go, all right? But it doesn't stop there. There's also the reverse that can happen if you're not careful, right? The man flows, right? Your husband, your partner's doing all sorts of awesome things, but then the money goes in your business, right? So we have to look at both angles when it comes to this topic for sure. And so how do you make it both work ways? There's a solution, not the simplest solution. It's a simple solution, not easy, right? Because it's going to come back to breaking those patterns, identifying what's going on, peeling back those layers, like I mentioned earlier on, and doing the only thing that a mistress can do. And I love the term mistress, even though it's gotten such a bad rap, because if you look at the definition of a mistress, it's actually a female master. And I find it actually very oppressive that we've given that label such a bad rap, right? Because the mistress does channel her inner femme power, she magnetizes, she attracts her dream man. And by what we've done to the name of it, right, we've completely pushed that away. And a lot of us, unfortunately, struggle in love because of that, or avoid some of the tactics that might be associated with that. And I'm not talking about the really negative part of that word, right? But the ones that really charm the man, keep the man running after you in your world, totally head over heels in love with you. Things you see in the beginning of the relationship that gets lost as time goes on, all right? And those are also the tools, okay, that help you put yourself first without repelling the man, but actually attracting the man. Because a lot of that happens too, right? We build up walls. We think we're focusing on ourselves. Well, we are focusing on ourselves, right? But we're doing it in a way that doesn't lend itself to love. And often we'll do it out of fear, out of past trauma. And it's great that you're working on your trauma, but that's just the symptoms. So remember this, right? If you don't work on the root cause of what got you the trauma, okay, you'll experience the same cycle again, right? The second divorce, for example. So I see a lot of women who fall into those patterns, right? And they're working on the healing and they're doing the healing, but at the same time, if we don't learn the other side of the equation, we're just going to find us going back into what happened in the first place. So that's the power you actually hold within you. And until your mistress masters control, the good control, the being in control, not the needing control, you'll always get to have both, right? Not instead of choosing between all the money or no man, or all man, no money, you don't have to be either or anymore. You get to have it all, and you were meant to have it all. Right? The one who has the full pay clients while your knight in shining armor is bathing your feet in champagne, or it doesn't even have to be that fancy, right? That's when you have the man that's supportive of you in business and of your goals, who grows with you, who embarks on his own personal development journey, who does things for you without asking. So you're not always, asking him to cook supper or to take care of groceries or to put the trash out or whatnot, or to take care of the kids while you need to focus on something in your business, right? This is the man who's going to do those things for you. Because at the end of the day, one thing that we often forget is that the man wants to please his woman, okay? And we have to let him know how to do that. Those are some specific tools that we talk about when we work on my Happily Ever After method. I hope this resonates with you. Let me know in the comments. If you have any questions, reach out to me in the DM. Again, if you know someone who would benefit from this information, make sure to tag them below. I will jump off for now, but I will talk to you ladies again very soon. All right, bye.